All right, good afternoon, everyone. I think you can all hear me. Yeah, okay, good. um, for those of you who haven't heard my name yet, I'm Margot and I work as a project manager at the Dutch Cycling Embassy. I'm introducing Dr. Tom Assman today. He will present about self-driving cargo bikes, the next evolution. I hope you're all as curious as I am, because I have no idea what to expect from self-driving cargo bikes. So very interested to hear your presentation. Tom is research group lead at the University of Magdeburg. And he will present to us today. And afterwards, we will have a Q&A with you as well. Tom.
Okay, hello everybody and a warm welcome from my side. Oh, hello. So, actually for me it's also a good sign to see that the interest and the topic of diversity in the cycling industry and especially with cargo bikes is pretty high, and unfortunately it's not as high as the interest in automated cargo bikes, but what I'm going to do today is to talk a bit about self-driving cargo bikes, why we need it, and what is the idea behind it. And first of all, I am actually wondering, who of you does think that self-driving cargo bikes are a good idea? Around three-ish. So maybe, actually my objective of the presentation is that at the end of the presentation, it will be more than three-ish thinking that this is a good idea. And when talking about cargo bikes and talking about bikes in general, we quite often have the problem that the bike is not where the user is. So the bike is somewhere and I am somewhere. And this is a problem I experienced this morning in Utrecht. Actually, I wanted to cycle through Utrecht because people told me Utrecht has a great cycling infrastructure. But bike sharing bikes were always very far away. So there are not many bike sharing bikes here. And there is a pretty easy solution for that. This is the first idea we had and we developed at the University of Magdeburg. And those are self-driving cargo bikes for bike sharing. The idea with self-driving bikes, or we started with cargo bikes because basically in the large box you can see this is full of computer power. It's our first prototype. And the idea is you are somewhere in a city and you need a bike. And you're really not in the mood to start to walk and look for the bike. Then maybe the bike is broken or the bike is hidden somewhere behind a fence, or all the problems you have with bike sharing. No, we don't want that problem. We wanted to make it easy. We wanted to make it really easy for the user. As easy as using a robotaxi in the future. You just take your smartphone and you call the bike. A simple push of a button on your smartphone. And then the bike will come to you. Within 10 minutes, the bike will just be at the location where you are. And then you are able to take over this bike. And then it's a bike. You will pedal it to exactly the destination where you want to go to. And at the end, you can just release the bike. And the bike directly heads to the next customer, or the bike heads to a waiting station, or the bike parks itself somewhere because it recognizes I need to charge. So, and this is actually solving two problems. One is you really can enable door-to-door mobility with bike-sharing bikes. And the second problem, and this is actually the larger problem, is you solve the issue of rebalancing bikes and cargo bikes. And the bike sharing companies we are in touch with, they are all fascinated by the opportunity to not send people around in large vehicles to pick up bikes, to check bikes, and to bring them somewhere else. And they are also very happy that users would not leave the bike somewhere randomly on the street, but because a bike parks itself, and you can even allocate bikes to hidden places so that they are not in the streets itself anymore, that they are not disturbing public spaces, but you can store them somewhere because you just call them if you need it. This is a huge, wonderful advantage, and this is the first prototype we started to build from 2019 to 2022, and we figured out that actually it's working. We had a field trial on the campus of our university, but we also had some interesting learnings from that. One learning is that autonomous driving with bikes is a pretty different challenge to autonomous driving with cars. On the first instance, it seems to be more easy. A bike is not very fast. Basically, if you just call the bike and the bike redistributes itself, you maybe can even say it's just driving at 6 kilometers or 15 kilometers per hour. So it does not need to look that far like a car. But infrastructure is way different. Utrecht has a pretty good infrastructure, but if you go to Germany and look into cycling infrastructure, basically it takes a bike to crossings until it cannot behave according to the street regulation anymore, because cycling paths are built in such a stupid way that somehow you have to obey rules. This is one problem. The other problem is that you have to deal with pedestrians. If you are a car, you have the car lane, and a pedestrian is not allowed on a car lane. Or the pedestrian has green and the car has red. Easy. But with a bicycle, and especially with a bicycle which maybe is allowed to go through parks or through the pedestrian zones, you have to handle pedestrians. And pedestrians walk in every direction. They stop when they want to stop. They do not signalize when they turn left or right, and so on. So it is another challenge you have to deal with, and that makes the problem, on the one hand, more easy, on the other hand, more difficult. And the other lesson we had to learn is we had been the first who had this funny idea to say we have self-driving cargo bikes. And what you need for self-driving vehicles is you need an engine for the steering, because the bike needs to steer and there's no human on it. You need brakes you can steer electronically. You need brakes which stop the bike when the when the electricity of the bike falls out. This is what you know from trains, for instance. If the electricity of a train breaks, the train stops. And this is also something you need here for security reasons. And those are components which are not available currently. So this is a pretty big issue and an issue we are working on. But we also learned through all those discussions with bike-sharing companies that there's a business case behind. And we also did some simulations on the city of Magdeburg and investigated the threshold between you're having high investment costs for the bike, but you're also having these operational benefits of not needing people to reallocate bikes anymore. And actually this turns out pretty well, and you can operate such a system at the same cost for the user with a profit than you operate current bike sharing systems. And you have the added value. So this is something which is possible. But due to the high challenges of the autonomous driving, we decided to narrow the large problem to a smaller problem, and we found a pretty similar problem, that the bike is not where the user wants to have it. And this is a problem which we found in logistics. If you imagine to be a parcel delivery guy or a post woman, we just learned that with post deliveries there are a lot of women active in the sector. You quite often have the processes that you walk from door to door to door to door. And currently you have to push or pedal the bike from door to door to door. You're sometimes wasting more time with arranging the bike than you actually use for doing your job. And we started a project Easy System, which is going to deal with it. Because here we figured out that you can use a cargo bike. And the benefit of a cargo bike is it can drive up to 25 kilometers per hour. It has a large volume. And you just use it. You drive from your micro depot to the actual streets where you are delivering. And then you turn on the automated driving function. And the bike just comes with you. We call it the come with me functionality. So that the bike, if you go from door to door to door, the bike comes with you from door to door to door automatically. You don't need to push it anymore. You don't need to pedal it. You don't need to hop on it anymore. And to make it even more convenient, what we're currently implementing is that you also can control this bike via voice command. It's a little bit like having a dog. Start, come with me, stop, or sit, maybe. So this is what you can do with a bike, and then it starts to be pretty easy to use such a bike, and you can really navigate it along your way, and you can handle it easily. And we built it up. We had the showcase for this bike end of August. What you can see is the bike in the background and me walking on the side doing some deliveries in the pedestrian zone of Magdeburg. And the interesting point is how does it work? So this is the bike. We are using our technology on the Owner Motion cargo bike. We choose this bike because it has a large volume. It is made for parcel deliveries, and it is a very well-made bike for this use case. And we then started to equip the bike with the automated driving functions. What you can see is, or better to say, firstly the bike needs to know its surrounding. So we are having on the front a camera and a LiDAR so that we can see objects, people, dogs. We are having a lot of discussions about those small dogs. Sometimes people tell us it's more important to not hit the dogs than to not hit the person. No, this is what we are having in the front, and we are needing the camera to really detect the lane. So that the bike knows I'm now on a cycling path and I go along the cycling path and I'm not going on the pedestrian path. So that the bike knows its way and can navigate through the way. And then what we are also having with this bike, cameras on the side. And in our first trials we did at the campus with the bike, we recognized that especially cyclists coming from the back of the bike wanting to because they are faster than the bikes they want to overtake, that they do not expect that such a bike has no driver, and they are overtaking with a very small distance. So what is essential here is that the bike knows that somebody is on the left or on the right before doing a maneuver or not. So this is something we recognize that is necessary. And if you are wondering, or if we jump back to briefly to our first bike, we are having this large box for the compute units, the metal one. And now we made a big progress. So the box for the compute units is just put in this small area between the driver's seat and the parcel container of the Owner Motion. So it's a pretty small box we are now using, and there's even more space within it. But we also learned from this project that this is not sufficient to really bring this technology on the streets. We learned that it's possible to basically make a standard cargo bike drive on its own, but for logistics it is too costly at the beginning. Logistics is a very cost-driven market with pretty low labor costs, and this is not the best point to enter it. And we also recognize that for other use cases, the bike we are now using may not be the best, and not all the sensors we are using are the best for every use case. So the entire architecture in the automated drive system needs to be modular, so that we can adjust sensors to the use case, that we can adjust the bike to the use case. And we found another problem, and a very interesting problem with the same points that people walk a long distance with a lot of stops. And this is street cleaning, it's park cleaning, where you are having those people walking along the park, picking up all the small litter laying on the ground, or where you're having those people with their trolleys, which work pretty well in the designated area where you're walking. But if those trolleys on the right-hand side, you waste a lot of time when you go from your actually industry hub to the area where you need to work. So here again, a cargo bike makes a lot of sense to be very fast, to go to your operational area, and then to have automated driving functions. And we started to develop more driving functions. And what we are now having is either the options that the bike can follow you. We call it the contactless pushing aid. So you know it from many e-bikes. Up to 6 kilometers per hour, you don't need to pedal, but you still need to sit on the saddle and you need to steer. And we are just modifying this one. So you do not need to push the bike anymore yourself, but the bike follows you. So you push it virtually, and you have the hands free to work, to pick up litter and so on. And the second driving function we implemented is the come to me function. And this also comes from street cleaning and park cleaning. So currently it's autumn. There are a lot of leaves on the street. And what people do there is they do a row or they walk down the street, they clean the street for 10, 15 meters, and they have a bunch of leaves, and they need to load it somewhere. Quite often, right now, this is done. One person is cleaning the street, another person is driving a car. Pretty inefficient. Here, it is possible that the person cleans the street for 10, 15, 20 meters, then calls the bike. The bike comes, you load it, then you do street cleaning for around 15 meters, and the bike comes again, and so you can walk alone and clean the street pretty effectively. And at the end, when you're done, you just switch to the manual drive mode, and you cycle either to the next operational area or back to your depot. And for this business case, we also started to modify the bike. We really went into modular automated drive systems. We made it more cost effective by reducing the sensors at the front from camera and LiDAR just to LiDAR, because it works pretty well if the bike just follows you, to just make sure that it does not overrun a person, that it does not overrun small animals. We are having those two driving functions now, and we even made the compute effort within the box even smaller. We are now just needing one compute unit within this box. The box already got smaller. And we installed some automated braking systems and automated steering. However, those are still our own made prototypes, and we are actively looking for partners providing us with serious ready components for this system. We have seen a lot of videos. You have seen a lot of photos. How does it start? No. This is a video from Monday evening when we did a field test with a partner of ours. And what you can see here is the bike has no driver on it. It drives, and with the technology we aimed for, so we are not using cameras to detect the person. We are using another system. It also enables us to work during nighttime, which is actually pretty essential if you look into street cleaning or if you also look into postal and parcel deliveries. This often happens at the beginning of the day or sometimes at the end of the day. So you need to be able to operate during nighttime. Interestingly, within our research, we took a pretty interesting approach. We started with, we want to make bicycles autonomous. In the car industry, you'd call it SAE level 4 or 5. And from there, we actually went down in technical complexity to an SAE level 2, which is the case for the parcel delivery vehicle. And with the last vehicle I just showed you, it is not even SAE level 2. It is a bit below that. It is basically just an assistance function. It's a cargo bike with an assistance function. It's not autonomous driving, which makes it pretty handy to get it into the market from the regulatory side of view. And now we are working on the issue that from what we developed, we want to get it on the streets. So we are currently working on starting a startup, looking for money with the aim to start with this pushing aid for street cleaning, park cleaning, and so on, and then go back up the technology level to end with autonomous bike sharing, which is more convenient than the current ones at the end of the day. Many thanks for your attention. And I'm looking forward to discuss this even further with you. And before we discuss it, how many of you now think that self-driving cargo bikes make sense? Okay, some more, so I was successful. Great.
Thank you, Tom. Well, I found out a lot from your presentation, so thanks for sharing your insights with us. Are there any questions from the audience? I'll go to him first.
Thanks. Yeah, there have been billions of dollars poured into automating cars. So one expects that technology must already be well ahead in that space of where you're at. And I've also heard, numerous talks about that, and it is said that the difficulty of automating cars increases exponentially with speed. In other words, it's easy at slow speed. So is the right approach not to partner with one of these companies who already has that sort of technology? I'm thinking particularly there's a semi-autonomous scooter. Is it the Segway T60 already on the market being sold? And there are various experiments around the world with self-moving, self-balancing two-wheeled bicycles. So, this technology is coming. It's leaping ahead really, really fast. Don't you just need to borrow somebody else's technology?
This is a very good point you're making. So this is what we developed, and when we started, we recognized there's not much going on. When we started 2019, this has changed since then. And for going into the market, we are actively looking for partners. So what we are having and what is our unique selling point is that we design the entire usage of those vehicles in a way that it is absolutely intuitive, that people can use it after 5 minutes, and that it's hand-free, and that you really can command the bikes hands-free. for really going into higher SAE levels, for sure it makes sense to look for partners, especially in the field of environmental perception, because this is a big issue. But people who did it on the automated field with cars are often not well equipped with doing it in an area where you really have to handle pedestrians, where you really have to handle all those bollards on the streets and a way higher complexity on the infrastructure you're driving on than on lanes. So this is a bit different, and most of their approaches are not fitted pretty well to the complexity.
Hey, this is kind of a nerdy question, but I noticed that you switched from camera and LiDAR to just LiDAR. And I'm familiar with the debate of those two technologies in the automotive world. And I'm curious why you went with LiDAR, which I believe is more expensive, right, than a camera-only approach.
In the automotive industry, this is a big discussion between Tesla and the rest of the automotive industry. That's true. Here, we started with camera and LiDAR because we are needing LiDAR to really detect all the objects in front of us and at every time of the day. And even if there's snow and even if it's raining and so on. And LiDAR is way better than what you have with cameras right now. We are using cameras to detect the lanes and to classify the objects we are seeing. So to know, okay, is it a bollard or is it a pedestrian or something else? But with a very first product, so that the person just walks in front of the bike follows immediately, we can we are sure, and we tested this with partners already, that the person knows, okay, I can go this way. So the bike does not need to know if it can go there or not. It just needs a fallback that if somebody jumps between the lead person and the bike, that the bike stops. This is basically the issue. And if you compare those both technologies, having the very simple approach saves one camera, which is pretty pricey, and also saves one compute unit because we don't need all the AI stuff behind.
Well, a nerdy answer to a nerdy question. I hope it answered your question.
Yes, hi, thank you. So I'm Jason Meggs. I've been thinking we need to move toward a cargo bike world and bicycle world for a long time. So when the craze for autonomous vehicles came along, I thought, why aren't we talking about bicycles? And so I have a lot of questions. I'm very glad to see you're looking at this. I'm surprised that it wasn't such a big crowd, but actually now we're getting more people. This may be part of why the hands went up higher. We should do a more detailed survey. But when I think about the applications, I think, well, first of all, as Dr. Hill said, when you bring the speed down, you reduce the danger, the complexity. So I think of what are the applications there? Like, for example, garbage collection or postal mail delivery. These are things that don't have to happen at high speed, right? They could go at a crawl. So then you think, well, they're also on a fixed route. So can we mark the fixed route so that the vehicle can go? One thing I really appreciated from your presentation is the assistance, if that's what you're calling the follow me. So, a garbage truck in many places is a giant heavy vehicle that has a compactor, and there's all these workers around it, and they're crushing the garbage. It's getting heavy. It's one of the main things that's destroying roads and infrastructure, which is very costly to replace. It's also a public health nuisance. It's very loud. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on the potential for expediting the delivery of solutions by reducing the automation and the speed. And so you have workers that have like basically a big work animal, but it's a kind of a cargo bike following them. And related to that, you're using 3 wheels. Is there a difference with 4 wheels? Is there any good reason to go to 4 wheels, or is it better to have 3 wheels? A lot of questions in there. Sorry.
I will answer the last question firstly, and then I would like to ask you to repeat the first one because I did not entirely got it. Okay, we started to work with Owner Motion because they are a good partner of ours, and we are working with them. And having 3 wheels is you can turn the bike with steeper curves than with 4 wheels, but basically our technology also works with 4 wheels.
I think my first question was, of the many questions in that, was can you imagine that we would get sooner to a product people can use if you have it basically a worker assistance? For example, collecting trash without a heavy vehicle, you walk through, you load, you take it to a heavy vehicle to be removed from the city or whatever happens to it. Also recycling, of course, or any kind of collection. Is that something you see as, should be a thrust of this whole idea?
So our objective is to bring this idea or this product to market within the next years. And so it will be the first instance where we, in some aspects, make garbage collections from larger, faster vehicles, smaller and slower.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Tom. Another applause.